Have you ever trusted someone so much only to have them rip your heart out in front of everyone? That's exactly what happened to Ethan. He was just an ordinary guy with big dreams and a heart full of love, but one night changed everything. Humiliated by the girl he adored, Ethan's world fell apart. People pointed, laughed, and whispered his name like a joke. But what they didn't see coming was the fire that betrayal sparked inside him, a fire that would fuel a revenge so calculated, so unexpected, it left everyone stunned. This is the story of how Ethan took the pain they gave him and turned it into the ultimate triumph. Are you ready to witness the perfect comeback? Ethan was the kind of teenager you'd walk past in a crowd without a second glance. Quiet, humble, and kind to a fault, he was the guy who'd offer you his seat on the bus or help you with homework without expecting anything in return. He wasn't the most confident, nor the most popular, but his heart was pure gold. Raised in a modest home, Ethan's parents taught him that being kind and hardworking mattered more than being rich or well-known. He believed it too, until he met Sophia. Sophia was everything Ethan wasn't. She was radiant, commanding attention wherever she went. With her bright smile, effortless charm, and a presence that could light up any room, she was the queen of the high school. Her confidence made her untouchable, her beauty unforgettable. She was the kind of girl Ethan could only dream about, someone so far out of his league it felt ridiculous to even imagine. But for some reason Ethan couldn't explain, Sophia started noticing him. At first, it was subtle. A smile in the hallway. A friendly wave during lunch. Ethan's heart would race every time she acknowledged him. He told himself it was just her being polite, but the more they talked, the more she made him feel special. She laughed at his jokes, asked him about his day, and even sat next to him in class a few times. To Ethan, it felt like a dream come true. The whispers started soon after. What's she doing with him? Her friends would sneer, but Ethan didn't care. For the first time in his life, he felt seen, really seen, by someone who mattered. She made him believe he wasn't invisible. So, when prom season rolled around, Ethan decided to take the biggest risk of his life. He was going to ask Sophia to be his date. He spent days rehearsing the words in his head. He imagined every scenario, every possible response she could give. He saved up for a small bouquet of flowers and even borrowed his dad's cologne to smell more confident. As he approached her after school one day, his hands trembled, and his heart felt like it was going to explode. "Sophia, I was wondering, would you go to prom with me?" he stammered, barely able to meet her eyes. For a moment, her face lit up with a smile, and Ethan thought the world had stopped turning. "Yes, Ethan," she said, her voice sweet as honey. "I'd love to." He couldn't believe it. The girl of his dreams had said yes. That night, Ethan lay awake in bed, replaying the moment over and over, his heart full of hope. He had no idea the storm that was brewing, no idea that the same moment filling him with joy was part of something far more cruel. A betrayal that would change his life forever. Prom night was everything Ethan had dreamed of. As he stood at Sophia's door, dressed in his carefully chosen suit, he couldn't believe his luck. Sophia looked stunning, her shimmering gown catching the light as she smiled at him. For a moment, he felt like he was living in a fairy tale. The girl of his dreams was on his arm, and for the first time, he felt like he truly belonged. As they entered the prom venue, all eyes turned to them. Ethan couldn't help but notice the stares, but he told himself it was because Sophia looked so breathtaking. He tried to ignore the subtle whispers and the faint smirks exchanged among her friends. His heart was too full of pride and excitement to see what was really happening. The night unfolded like a dream. They danced, laughed, and for the first time, Ethan felt what it was like to be part of something bigger than himself. Sophia stayed close to him, her warmth making him believe he was the luckiest guy in the world. Every time she flashed him that perfect smile, his insecurities melted away. But then, something changed. As the night neared its end, Sophia led Ethan toward the stage, her hand gripping his tightly. "I have a surprise for you," she whispered, her voice filled with excitement. Ethan's heart raced with anticipation. He thought she might be about to thank him, maybe even tell him how special he was to her. The room went silent as she took the microphone. "Everyone, I just want to say how much fun tonight has been. Sophia began, her tone light and bubbly. Ethan stood beside her, grinning nervously, unsure of what to expect. But then her smile shifted, just slightly, and the room seemed to freeze. "Let me introduce you all to Ethan. Date," she said, pausing dramatically as a ripple of quiet laughter spread through the crowd. Ethan's stomach dropped, confusion flashing across his face. "Ethan is just the sweetest, isn't he?" Sophia continued, her voice dripping with mock sincerity. "He actually believed I wanted to be here with him." The room erupted in laughter. Before Ethan could react, Sophia pointed to a projector screen. Images began flashing, a slideshow of embarrassing photos of him. One of him tripping on the stairs, another of him nervously sweating during class, all taken without his knowledge. "And this one," Sophia said, barely containing her laughter as the audience roared, "this was the moment he asked me to prom. I mean, how could I say no to such determination?" Her final words cut through Ethan like a knife. "Did you really think someone like me could love someone like you?" Ethan's face burned as the crowd's laughter grew louder. He couldn't breathe. The girl he had adored, trusted, had turned his dream into a nightmare. Without a word, he bolted from the room, tears streaming down his face, leaving the sound of their laughter behind. His world had shattered, and he had no idea what he would do next. The days after prom were nothing short of a nightmare for Ethan. Everywhere he went, the laughter followed him. His classmates whispered behind his back, their cruel comments cutting him like daggers. Social media was even worse. Memes and videos of Sophia's humiliating pranks spread like wildfire, each one a painful reminder of the worst night of his life. Ethan couldn't escape it, no matter how hard he tried. At school, his once quiet existence became unbearable. People stared, some with pity, others with amusement. Even his teachers seemed unsure of how to approach him. The few friends he had avoided him, afraid of being pulled into his humiliation. Ethan began skipping classes, spending his days in the library or hiding in the empty bleachers, trying to avoid the cruel stares and whispered insults. At home, it wasn't much better. His parents noticed the change in him. The way he barely ate, how he stayed locked in his room for hours, staring blankly at the ceiling. His mother's worried eyes and his father's quiet frustration only made him feel worse. He hated the person he'd become, weak, broken, and defined by the humiliation Sophia had inflicted on him. But as the weeks turned into months, something inside Ethan began to shift. The pain didn't go away, but it started to harden into something else, something stronger. At first, it was just a thought, a whisper in the back of his mind. Then it became a quiet vow, spoken aloud to himself late at night. One day, they'll all regret this. Ethan began to spend his time differently. He stopped wallowing and started working. He devoured books on business, self-improvement, and resilience, finding solace in their pages. He started exercising, channeling his anger into long runs and late-night push-ups. Slowly but surely, he began to rebuild himself, not for anyone else, but for his own survival. Then, one day, he made a decision that would change everything. He packed up a few belongings, cleared out his locker, and disappeared. No goodbyes, no explanations, he simply vanished. People at school speculated, but no one knew where he went. In truth, Ethan had decided to leave his old life behind. He needed space to transform, to become someone who could stand tall again. As he boarded a bus to a new city, he looked out the window and whispered to himself, "They don't know it yet, but I'll be back. And when I return, they'll see who I've become." The seeds of his transformation had been planted, and though the road ahead was uncertain, one thing was clear: Ethan wasn't the same broken boy who had run out of prom. He was something far more dangerous, a man determined to rise. Ethan's disappearance left everyone wondering where he had gone, but the truth was far from ordinary. In those 2 years, he dedicated himself to a complete transformation. Mind, body, and soul. What started as a desperate attempt to escape his pain became an unrelenting drive to rebuild his life from the ground up. His first priority was strength, both physical and emotional. Ethan woke up before dawn every day, pushing himself through grueling workouts. The shy, scrawny teenager was gone. In his place emerged a disciplined, fit young man with confidence radiating from every stride. He trained not just his body but his mind, poring over books on psychology, business strategy, and personal development. Each page he read, every lesson he absorbed, brought him closer to the man he wanted to become. Ethan also began exploring the world of technology and entrepreneurship. Starting small, he took on freelance coding jobs, using his earnings to fund online courses and build a network of like-minded professionals. His focus and determination paid off when his tech startup, centered on innovative app development, quickly gained traction. By the time he turned 20, Ethan had achieved what most people twice his age only dreamed of: financial freedom and a thriving business. But Ethan's reinvention wasn't just about personal success, it was about the message he wanted to send. His appearance matched his new persona. Gone were the days of plain clothes and nervous smiles. Ethan's polished, sophisticated image now turned heads wherever he went. His sharp suits, confident demeanor, and quiet charisma left an impression, though no one from his past had seen him yet. The first hints of his return came through cryptic social media posts. Ethan, now a man of mystery, shared snapshots of high-end business meetings, scenic travel destinations, and motivational quotes that hinted at triumph over struggle. His captions were tantalizingly vague: "Patience is the key to greatness," or "The best revenge is a life well lived," or "Is it?" The posts spread quickly, sparking curiosity and speculation. People who once ridiculed Ethan began to notice, wondering what he was planning and why he had chosen now to resurface. His former classmates shared screenshots, asking, "Is this the same Ethan we knew? What's he up to?" But Ethan stayed silent, letting the mystery build. He wanted them to wonder. He wanted them to remember. Underneath his poised exterior, a plan was brewing. Ethan wasn't just coming back to show off his success, he was coming back to rewrite the story they had written for him. And though no one could predict what he had in store, one thing was certain: Ethan's return would be unforgettable. Ethan's return was not loud or dramatic. It was calculated, precise, and orchestrated like a symphony. Using the wealth and influence he had amassed, he began weaving a web that would entangle the very people who had torn him apart. This wasn't about revenge for revenge's sake. It was about creating an unforgettable moment that would leave them questioning everything they thought they knew. Sophia was the first to notice something was off. Once the queen of every room, her reign had begun to falter. Her social media posts, once flooded with adoration, now garnered fewer likes and more subtle jabs in the comments. The confident girl who had mocked Ethan at prom was now riddled with self-doubt, though she didn't yet understand why. Then came the messages, cryptic, unsettling. A single text on a random morning: "I haven't forgotten." No name, no explanation, just enough to make her pause. Her friends weren't spared either. One by one, they started facing problems that seemed too coincidental to be random. A sudden audit on a family business. A job application mysteriously falling through. Social rumors emerging from nowhere, tarnishing their spotless reputations. None of it was overtly connected, yet each incident chipped away at their perfect facades. Behind it all was Ethan, orchestrating every piece of the puzzle with meticulous care. But Ethan didn't make his presence fully known, not yet. He wanted them to feel the unease, the cracks forming in the foundation of their lives. Every move was deliberate, every step designed to leave them questioning their own security. Sophia began to feel like she was being watched. At parties, she'd glance over her shoulder, expecting to see someone familiar, but no one was there. She started losing sleep, her polished exterior unraveling. Her friends noticed too. "You're imagining things," one of them scoffed, though her own voice betrayed uncertainty. Even their tight-knit group began to fracture, the subtle sabotage creating mistrust and tension. Ethan's influence seeped into their lives like a silent storm, invisible but undeniable. Meanwhile, Ethan stayed in the shadows, keeping his ultimate goal hidden from everyone. His social media posts grew bolder, filled with veiled hints and cryptic captions. "The past always catches up," or "Patience makes the best weapon." The posts spread like wildfire, fueling speculation among his former classmates. The tension built as Ethan edged closer to the confrontation he had been planning for years. He knew the moment had to be perfect, calculated to strike where it hurt the most. Yet, despite all the moves he made, no one could predict exactly what Ethan had in store. He had become an enigma, a force they couldn't see coming. And as the stage for his final act took shape, one question lingered. What would Ethan's revenge truly look like? The night of the high-profile charity gala was glittering with opulence. Lights sparkled, cameras flashed, and the air buzzed with conversations among the city's elite. Among them was Ethan, now a man of poise and power, his presence commanding attention without a word. Dressed in a tailored suit that radiated sophistication, he moved through the crowd effortlessly, every glance following him in curiosity and admiration. Few recognized him, but one person did, Sophia. She spotted him across the room, her breath catching in her throat. Could it really be him? The shy, awkward boy she had humiliated at prom? No, it couldn't be. This man was confident, magnetic, and undeniably successful. Yet, as Ethan's eyes met hers, there was no mistaking who he was. He smiled faintly, a calculated move that sent a chill down her spine. Sophia wasn't the queen of her world anymore. Her popularity had waned, her insecurities heightened. She clung to a carefully curated image, desperate to maintain the illusion of perfection. Ethan's sudden presence rattled her, and she tried to compose herself as he approached. "Ethan," she managed, forcing a smile. "It's been a while." "Indeed," he replied smoothly, his voice calm but carrying an edge. "I thought it was time we caught up." The room seemed to shrink as Ethan guided Sophia toward the stage. The murmurs grew louder as the spotlight turned on them. Ethan took the microphone, his gaze sweeping across the crowd before settling on Sophia. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady and confident, "I'd like to share a story tonight. It's about betrayal, resilience, and transformation." Sophia's face paled as the memories of prom night rushed back. Ethan wasn't just telling a story, he was reliving their story. He recounted the humiliation he had endured, not with bitterness but with a calm precision that cut deeper than anger. The audience hung on every word, their expressions shifting from intrigue to sympathy, and then to judgment as Ethan turned his attention to Sophia. "Some people build their lives on lies," he said, his eyes locking onto hers. "They thrive on tearing others down to feel powerful. But what happens when those lies unravel?" With a few carefully chosen words, Ethan exposed Sophia's carefully hidden insecurities, the constant need for validation, the shallow relationships, the facade of confidence that masked her struggles. He didn't mock her or ridicule her as she had done to him. Instead, he held up a mirror, forcing her to see herself for who she truly was. The room fell silent as Sophia's mask crumbled. She tried to defend herself, but the weight of the truth left her speechless. Ethan stepped back, his voice softer now. "I didn't come here to humiliate you, Sophia. I came to show you that the person you tried to break is stronger than you ever imagined. I hope one day, you'll find the strength to be the same." The audience erupted in applause, not for Sophia, but for Ethan. He walked away, leaving Sophia standing in the spotlight, her perfect image shattered, not by cruelty, but by truth. Revenge doesn't have to be about destruction. It can be about transformation. Ethan didn't just overcome the humiliation. He used it as fuel to become someone no one could ignore. As he walked away from Sophia, stronger and more confident than ever, he left her with one simple truth: "Thank you. You made me better." Life will throw challenges at you, and people may try to break you, but the real power lies in how you rise. Remember, the best way to silence those who doubt you is to build yourself so high that their words can't touch you. Your story isn't defined by what happens to you, it's defined by how you choose to rewrite it.